A quiet Seoul morning. The streets glisten after a fresh rain. A young boy, laughing and chasing a stray balloon, darts across the road. Tires screech. Time slows. A sleek black car swerves just in time. The boy freezes, heart pounding. The driver, a sharp, impeccably dressed man with a composed face, stares, frozen, a flash of fear in his eyes. The mother rushes forward, breathless, tears streaming. Their eyes meet for a fleeting, charged moment, an unspoken connection formed in chaos. And then, the world pulls them apart. Before we continue, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. This will make me so happy. The city of Seoul gleamed after an early morning rain. Puddles reflected neon signs and the soft glow of streetlights fading with dawn. Eunji tightened her grip on her son's hand, Minsu, as they walked down the quiet sidewalk. He was 5, full of energy, chasing a red balloon that bobbed and danced in the breeze. Minsu, slow down. Eunji called, breathless but smiling. But children rarely listen. In a heartbeat, the balloon slipped from his grasp, bouncing across the wet asphalt. Minsu ran after it, tiny feet splashing in puddles. Eunji's heart lurched. A sleek black luxury car rounded the corner. The engine roared, the tires squealed. Eunji's scream pierced the morning air. -0. Time slowed. The boy froze in the middle of the road, the balloon hovering above his head. The car swerved violently, tires skidding, water spraying like fireworks. Eunji sprinted forward, her hands outstretched, her heart pounding. The driver's eyes widened behind the steering wheel. Kang Jun-hyuk, heir to a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, was used to control, to perfect precision, but this moment was chaos. His hands gripped the wheel, knuckles white, as he brought the car to a stop just inches from the boy. Minsu stumbled back, tears in his eyes, trembling. Eunji scooped him up, holding him close as she sobbed quietly, her heart racing. Jun-hyuk stepped out of the car, impeccably dressed, a calm mask covering his shock. But when he looked at Eunji, at the protective way she held her son, something in him shifted. A flicker of awe, something unfamiliar, something like admiration. Are you okay?" he asked, voice steady, though his chest still raced. Eunji nodded, clutching Minsu tightly. Yes, we're fine. Thank you. No need, Jun-hyuk interrupted gently, stepping back. Just be careful. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second, hers wide and cautious, his calm but curious. Something unspoken passed between them. Fate had stepped in, leaving a connection neither understood, yet both would never forget. And then, as quickly as it had happened, he got back into his car, the engine purring, leaving Eunji and Minsu standing in the middle of the street, their hearts still racing, unaware that this moment would mark the beginning of something life-changing. Hours later, the streets of Seoul were alive with the midday rush. Eunji adjusted the strap of her worn bag, her heart still skipping beats from the morning's chaos. Minsu skipped beside her, clutching a small notebook filled with his sketches, sunshine, balloons, and a scribbled picture of the black car that had nearly ended their morning. Eunji's mind wandered back to the man behind the wheel. There was something in his eyes, calm yet intense, that she couldn't forget. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. She had responsibilities now, her son, bills, and the looming task of finding a job to keep their small life afloat. Meanwhile, in a glass-walled office tower, Kang Jun-hyuk sat behind a massive desk. The near accident had haunted him more than he wanted to admit. His secretary knocked softly. "Mr. Kang, your first applicant is here." Eunji stepped into the lobby, trying to appear composed. Her hands gripped her resume a little too tightly. The elevator doors opened, and her eyes met Jun-hyuk's for the second time that day. It was a quiet moment, but for him, it was as if the world paused. She walked with purpose, yet there was a softness to her, a warmth that contrasted with the cold corporate walls. The way she smiled politely at the receptionist, the quiet confidence in her posture, the gentle patience with her son as he tugged at her skirt, it drew him in. Jun-hyuk had met countless people, executives, influencers, assistants. but none had left a mark like this. Her energy was grounded, authentic. He couldn't explain it, but he felt drawn. When she finally reached his office, Eun-ji handed over her resume, glancing nervously at the man behind the desk. I saw the job posting. I'd like to apply for the administrative position, she said, her voice steady but tinged with humility. Jun-hyuk took the papers, his eyes briefly scanning them, but it wasn't her qualifications that held his attention. It was her presence, the quiet dignity, the way she carried herself despite the exhaustion he could sense beneath the surface. I see, he said finally, offering a small smile. We can start with an interview now. Eun-ji's heart skipped a beat. The day had begun with chaos, almost tragedy, and now, fate had drawn them together again. For Jun-hyuk, it was the beginning of a fascination he couldn't ignore. He didn't yet know how deeply this encounter would change him, or how profoundly Eun-ji's life would intertwine with his. As she followed him into the office, Min-soo tugged at her hand, glancing up at the man with curiosity. Jun-hyuk smiled faintly at the boy, a silent promise forming in his mind. He would protect them, even if he didn't yet know why. The camera pans out over the bustling city below. The same streets, the same rain-slicked pavement from this morning, now sparkling under the sun. Two worlds, once distant, were now inching closer together, carried forward by fate's invisible hand. The office was quiet, almost oppressively so. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a panoramic view of Seoul's skyline, glittering under the morning sun. Eun-ji sat across from Kang Jun-hyuk, clutching her resume, trying to steady her racing heart. Min-soo tugged lightly at her sleeve, hiding behind her chair, a small frown on his face. Jun-hyuk leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, watching her closely. Most candidates would be nervous, stumbling over words, or trying too hard to impress. But Eun-ji, she was different. She answered questions with calm honesty, spoke about her life and ambitions without embellishment, and most importantly, her love for her son shone through every word. You handle a lot, he said finally, his voice soft but commanding. Managing a household, a child, and now, stepping into a corporate environment. That takes courage. Eun-ji blinked, surprised by the sincerity. I just do what I have to. Min-soo's my world, and I can't let him, or myself, fall behind. Jun-hyuk felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't expected. He usually evaluated people by resumes, references, or numbers. But here, across his polished desk, sat someone whose strength couldn't be quantified, someone who radiated determination, resilience, and heart. All right, he said after a long pause, a faint smile tugging at his lips. You're hired. You start tomorrow. Eun-ji's jaw dropped. Really? Thank you. He nodded, eyes lingering on her face. Don't thank me. Just bring that same honesty and strength here, and you'll do fine. As she stood, Min-soo shyly peeked around her leg. Jun-hyuk bent slightly, offering a hand to the boy. And you, he said gently, you'll be my little office mascot, huh? Min-soo giggled, the tension from earlier melting. Eun-ji's cheeks warmed, not from embarrassment, but from the quiet kindness in Jun-hyuk's gesture. Something unspoken passed between them, a delicate recognition. This wasn't just a job. This was the beginning of something neither of them had anticipated. Later, as Eun-ji left the office, the sun caught the glass of the building, reflecting golden light onto her face. Jun-hyuk watched from his desk, feeling an unfamiliar pull in his chest. Every interaction, every small smile she shared, lingered in his mind long after she was gone. Outside, Min-soo bounced along, clutching his mother's hand. Eun-ji glanced back toward the towering building, a quiet thrill stirring inside her. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope, an unspoken promise that perhaps life had something extraordinary in store for them after all. And somewhere deep in the office, Jun-hyuk made a silent vow. He would discover everything about this woman, the one who had captured his attention in less than an hour, and he wouldn't let fate slip away this time. The camera pans out over the city, Seoul bustling with life, unaware that two hearts from entirely different worlds were now on a collision course. The morning light streamed through the glass walls of the office, illuminating rows of sleek desks and polished floors. Eun-ji walked in for her first day, Min-soo holding her hand tightly, his small backpack bouncing with each step. She tried to steady her nerves, smoothing the creases in her simple blouse, but her heart skipped a beat when she saw him. Kang Jun-hyuk was already at his desk, reviewing reports with his usual precision. But the moment his eyes met hers, something softened. A curiosity, a spark he hadn't felt in years. "Good morning," Eun-ji said politely, her voice steady but warm. "Good morning," he replied, standing slightly taller, offering a polite nod. The corners of his lips lifted faintly, almost unconsciously. It wasn't just a greeting, it was a recognition of her presence, a subtle acknowledgement that she mattered more than any ordinary employee. The day began with introductions, forms, and tours of the office. Jun-hyuk observed quietly from his corner. Eun-ji greeted everyone with respectful smiles and genuine attention, but it was her kindness toward Min-soo that caught his eye. She balanced work and motherhood seamlessly, offering patient smiles when Min-soo asked questions or wandered near her desk. During lunch, Jun-hyuk found himself walking past the small kitchenette where she sat quietly, unpacking a simple lunch for herself and her son. He hesitated, then spoke. "You don't have to eat alone," he said casually, gesturing toward the empty table nearby. Eun-ji looked up, surprised, then smiled politely. "Thank you, but it's fine. Min-soo prefers sitting next to me anyway." He watched as she shared a few bites of her sandwich with Min-soo, laughing softly at a small joke he made. There was a natural rhythm to her movements, a balance between care and strength that left him captivated. It wasn't just beauty, it was presence, resilience, and warmth. Over the next few hours, small moments kept drawing him in, the way she patiently explained office equipment to Min-soo, how she quietly organized the paperwork, and the subtle way she noticed the smallest details. For Jun-hyuk, it was intoxicating. Every glance, every smile, felt like discovering a new world he hadn't known existed. As the day drew to a close, Eun-ji packed up her things, Min-soo tugging at her sleeve. She glanced at Jun-hyuk one last time before leaving. Their eyes met, and in that fleeting moment, something unspoken passed between them, a quiet acknowledgement that the morning's near tragedy had been more than coincidence, that fate had brought them together, and that this was only the beginning. Jun-hyuk watched them leave, his chest tight with a strange, thrilling anticipation. For the first time in his life, work didn't matter. What mattered was her, the single mother with strength, grace, and a spark that refused to be ignored. The camera lingers on the skyline outside the office windows. Seoul bustles with life, yet amidst the chaos, two worlds are beginning to intertwine, slowly, quietly, beautifully. The office hummed with quiet energy, sunlight streaming across polished floors and glass walls. Eun-ji had settled into her routine, Min-soo playing quietly at a corner with a small notebook while she handled her tasks. But for Kang Jun-hyuk, the day was no longer about reports or meetings, it was about the subtle gravity of her presence. He found himself noticing little things. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when focused, the soft laugh she shared with a colleague, the gentle patience she showed Min-soo when he asked endless questions. It wasn't grand gestures, it was small, fleeting moments that lingered in his mind long after they passed. During a mid-morning break, Eun-ji struggled with a stubborn printer that refused to cooperate. Jun-hyuk walked by, casually leaning against the doorway. "Need a hand?" he asked, his tone teasing but polite. Eun-ji looked up, slightly flustered but amused. "I've tried everything, it's clearly conspiring against me." He chuckled softly, kneeling to inspect the machine. "Computers hate chaos, but people like you? They usually win." She laughed, a genuine, musical laugh that made something warm and unsteady stir in him. "I guess we'll see," she said, shaking her head with mock exasperation. Later that afternoon, a file she had misplaced prompted a small search through the office. Jun-hyuk found himself offering a quiet, "Try checking the top shelf," even though the file wasn't important to him personally. Yet seeing her gratitude and that fleeting smile made the day feel different, lighter, more vibrant. Min-soo, curious as ever, wandered over to Jun-hyuk during a short break. "Are you my mom's boss?" he asked bluntly, tilting his head. "I'm a colleague," Jun-hyuk replied carefully, offering a soft smile. "I'll help your mom, yes." The boy's eyes sparkled. "Good. She's super strong, you know." Jun-hyuk laughed quietly, struck by the boy's honesty. "I can see that," he said, realizing he wasn't just drawn to Eun-ji, he was drawn to this small family unit, to the way they fit together effortlessly. By the end of the day, the small sparks had formed a subtle current between them. Jun-hyuk watched Eun-ji leave with Min-soo, her laughter ringing through the hallway as she tried to calm a sudden burst of energy from her son. Alone in his office, he traced the outline of her smile in his mind, realizing that the attraction he felt wasn't just physical, it was admiration, fascination, and an unspoken longing. As the camera pans over Seoul at dusk, the city lights flicker like stars coming alive. Somewhere in that vast urban sprawl, two hearts are quietly converging, drawn together by fate, small moments, and the slow, undeniable pull of something extraordinary. The weekend sun poured through the large windows of Eun-ji's small apartment. Min-soo sat on the floor, crayons scattered around him, coloring a picture of the black car that had changed their lives just days ago. Eun-ji prepared lunch in the tiny kitchen, her mind replaying the small sparks at the office. A sudden knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Kang Jun-hyuk standing there, holding a small, neatly wrapped box. His usually composed expression softened as he looked at her. "I thought, maybe I could bring something for Min-soo," he said, gesturing toward the boy, who had now noticed the visitor and froze, eyes wide. This isn't necessary," Eun-ji began, hesitant, unsure why he was here on a weekend. "I insist," Jun-hyuk replied with a small, genuine smile. "It's nothing extravagant. Just a little something." Min-soo approached cautiously, curiosity replacing his shyness. Jun-hyuk knelt to his level and opened the box, revealing a small model airplane. "For you," he said simply. The boy's eyes lit up. "Wow, it's amazing. Thank you." He hugged the toy tightly, then glanced at Jun-hyuk. "Do you know how to fly it?" Jun-hyuk laughed softly. "I might need lessons from you." Eun-ji watched silently, her heart warming. Seeing her son giggle freely around him, she realized that Jun-hyuk wasn't just interested in her, he genuinely cared for Min-soo as well. There was a kindness there, a patience that few could maintain with a lively 5-year-old. The afternoon passed with simple joys, Min-soo showing off his drawings, Jun-hyuk attempting to fold paper airplanes, and Eun-ji observing quietly, a soft smile playing on her lips. She noticed the way Jun-hyuk's usual poise softened around her son, how his eyes crinkled in genuine laughter, how he didn't seem distant or unreachable anymore. By evening, as he left, Min-soo ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Come back soon." "I'll do my best," Jun-hyuk promised, gently patting the boy's head. After the door closed, Eun-ji let out a soft sigh. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, gratitude, curiosity, and a spark of something she hadn't felt in years. Could someone like him truly care about them? And more importantly, could she let herself trust him? Outside, the sun dipped behind the city skyline, painting the streets in gold and rose hues. In the quiet apartment, mother and son shared a glance, hearts quietly recognizing that life was about to change, and not just in small ways. The camera pans out over Seoul, now glowing in sunset, as the small family stands by the window. Somewhere between fate, laughter, and a child's innocent charm, love was beginning to take root. The office lights dimmed as the evening approached, and a sudden downpour tapped against the large glass windows of the building. Eun-ji packed up her things, Min-soo tugging at her sleeve, eager to get home before the rain drenched them. But as they stepped into the stairwell, a familiar voice stopped her. "Wait," Kang Jun-hyuk called, appearing from the shadowed hallway. Rain streaked down the glass behind him, casting the office in soft reflections of silver and gray. He held an umbrella, but didn't move to offer it, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her pause. Mr. King, it's pouring, Eun-ji said softly, wary of the sudden tension in the air. I know, he said simply, his gaze unwavering. Can we step onto the rooftop? I need to talk to you. Something in his voice, serious, yet vulnerable, made her nod. Min-soo clung to her side, eyes wide, but didn't protest. Together, they took the elevator to the top floor, the storm painting the city skyline in streaks of silver and gold reflections. Once on the rooftop, Jun-hyuk opened the umbrella just enough to cover them from the heaviest rain. The wind whipped around them, and Min-soo huddled close to his mother. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the city below glowing under streetlights and the sound of rain filling the quiet space between them. Finally, Jun-hyuk spoke, his voice low, steady, and deliberate. I've been thinking about you. About your strength, your kindness, the way you care for your son. I've never felt this way before, and I can't ignore it anymore. Eun-ji's breath caught. She had suspected he felt something, but hearing it aloud, the sincerity in his tone, the way he looked at her without pretense, made her heart tremble. I don't know what to say, she whispered, her hands tightening around Min-soo's. Then don't say anything, he said gently. Just know that I care about you, and I want to be part of your life. Not just as your boss, not just as someone who admires you, but as someone who loves you. The words hung in the rain-scented air. Eun-ji felt a mix of fear and longing, the worry of trust, the weight of past struggles, but also a warmth that had been absent for so long. Min-soo peeked up at Jun-hyuk and smiled faintly, as if sensing the honesty in his words. Eun-ji looked at him, really looked, and saw the vulnerability beneath the polished exterior, the genuine care for her son, the quiet strength that mirrored her own. Slowly she nodded, a small smile breaking through her uncertainty. I think I need time, she said softly. Take all the time you need, he replied, his hand brushing against hers briefly, a gentle promise. I'll wait. The camera pans out over Seoul, the rain casting glittering reflections across the city streets. Two figures stand on the rooftop, separated from the world below yet closer than ever, hearts quietly acknowledging a new beginning. The storm rages, but within it, love begins to bloom. The following weeks blurred into a rhythm of work, laughter, and small, meaningful interactions. Eun-ji navigated her new role with determination, and Min-soo thrived under the attention and kindness of Jun-hyuk, who found himself quietly adjusting his world to fit theirs. Yet, the reality of their differences was impossible to ignore. The boardroom meetings, corporate lunches, and sleek glass towers were a far cry from Eun-ji's modest apartment, her worn notebooks, and the simple routines of a single mother's life. One evening, Jun-hyuk invited Eun-ji to the company's annual gala, a sparkling, high-society event she had never attended. She felt out of place amidst designer gowns and polished heels, and her insecurities began to creep in. Are you okay? Jun-hyuk asked softly, noticing her nervous fidgeting with her simple clutch. I just don't belong here, she admitted, her voice quiet but honest. You belong wherever you are, he said, taking her hand gently. And tonight, I want everyone to see how incredible you are, not just as my employee, but as the person I've come to care about. The gala was a dazzling whirlwind of lights, music, and conversation. Eun-ji followed Jun-hyuk through the crowd, her eyes wide at the opulence around her. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, she noticed the subtle way he introduced her to colleagues not as an assistant, but as someone he respected, admired, and valued. As the evening wore on, Min-soo's laughter echoed from a nearby corner where Jun-hyuk had engaged him with playful games, winning over even the most skeptical of guests. The sight melted Eun-ji's reservations. Here was a man bridging two very different worlds, corporate sophistication and the simple joy of family. Later, as they stepped onto the balcony for a quiet moment, Jun-hyuk wrapped his coat around her shoulders. I know this world is different from yours, he said, voice low, but I want us to build a space where both our worlds can exist together. Eun-ji looked out over the city skyline, glittering like a universe of possibilities. She realized that love didn't mean leaving her life behind. It meant finding someone willing to step into it, to understand it, and to grow alongside it. She turned to him, a small smile forming. "Then, let's try," she said, her hand brushing against his. The camera pans over the gala below, lights shimmering like stars, as two hearts find a delicate balance between two worlds. The city hums with life, but on this balcony, time feels suspended, love quietly, steadily bridging the gap between past struggles and future possibilities. A few weeks later, Seoul was wrapped in a gray winter haze. The cold wind rattled the office windows as Eun-ji hurried through the lobby, Min-soo by her side. Lately, life had felt almost like a dream, but reality has a way of testing even the strongest of hearts. At the office, a new project required Jun Hyuk's undivided attention, and pressure from the board began to mount. Rumors swirled about nepotism and favoritism, whispers that Eun-ji had been hired only because of her connection to him. Eun-ji overheard one of the comments during a meeting. Her cheeks burned, and for a fleeting moment, doubt crept in. Was her place in his world real, or just an illusion built on his affection? That evening, she met Jun Hyuk in the empty office. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. I can't help but feel that people think I don't deserve this. That I'm only here because of you," she confessed, voice barely above a whisper. Jun Hyuk stood silently for a moment, studying her. Then he took her hand firmly, looking her straight in the eyes. "Eun-ji," he said, voice steady, "you are here because of you. Because of your strength, your intelligence, your integrity. Nothing, no rumor, no comment, can change that. I care about you, yes, but I respect you too much to let anyone diminish that." Tears pricked at her eyes. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust him completely, but old fears die hard. "It's hard to accept that sometimes," she admitted softly. "Then let me show you," he said, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Every day. In small ways. In big ways. I won't ask you to believe blindly, I'll earn your trust, every single day." That night, as they walked down the rain-slicked streets together, Min-soo skipping ahead, Eun-ji felt a flicker of hope. She realized that love wasn't about perfection, it was about effort, honesty, and commitment. And Jun Hyuk was proving he was willing to meet her halfway, to navigate both the shadows of doubt and the light of possibility. The camera pans upward as the city lights reflect on puddles, glowing like constellations. Two figures walk hand in hand, their silhouettes blending against the urban skyline. Trust, fragile yet resilient, was slowly being built. And in that delicate balance between fear and hope, love continued to grow, steady, patient, and unshakable. The first light of dawn spilled over Seoul, turning the city into a canvas of gold and rose. Eun-ji stood at the small park near her apartment, Min-soo running ahead, laughing freely, his small balloon dancing in the breeze. Life had shifted, quietly but irrevocably, since that morning when fate had nearly torn them apart. Jun Hyuk appeared from behind, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. He didn't need to speak. Min-soo's excited squeals and Eun-ji's soft smile said everything. He knelt to hand the boy his drink, and Min-soo hugged him tightly. "Good morning, champ," Jun Hyuk said gently. "Morning," Min-soo chirped, then turned to tug at Eun-ji's hand. "Mom, let's go fly the balloon." Eun-ji laughed softly, her heart full. As she watched Min-soo run, she realized that the chaos, the fear, and the uncertainty of the past months had led them here, to a place of love, trust, and possibility. Jun Hyuk reached for her hand, fingers intertwining naturally with hers. "We've come a long way," he said quietly. "We have," Eun-ji agreed, warmth spreading through her chest. "And I think we're ready for the next step." He smiled, a soft, radiant smile that mirrored her own. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic proclamations, just the quiet certainty that they had found each other. Together, they walked down the park path, Min-soo bouncing ahead, laughter mingling with the morning breeze. Their lives, once separate worlds of struggle and privilege, had woven together into something beautiful, A family built on love, resilience, and the simple joy of being together. The camera pans upward to capture the skyline of Seoul, rain-washed streets glimmering under the early sun. The city, with all its chaos and energy, fades into the background as the three of them walk hand in hand, a new life unfolding before them. Fate had brought them together with a near miss. Love had held them together through doubts and worlds apart. And now, a new beginning stretched ahead, bright, hopeful, and entirely theirs. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this.